Welcome back, Beans Army, to another episode of the Less is More Sports Podcast, the college offseason podcast where you could say we're less of the regular season, but more of the offseason. We're one weekend down and halfway through another weekend of March Madness, and we've had some great basketball games and even better narratives for us to talk about. But there is one narrative in particular that is what we are going to lead this show off with. In a college basketball world where NIL and the transfer portal reign supreme, at least on this offseason podcast, there were fears that these things were going to take away talent from smaller schools and give them to the big schools, almost like a twisted college hoops Robin Hood. And to be honest, Matt and I were skeptical at first. But now, in a world where my Texas Longhorns were the lowest remaining seed, and they were considered the Cinderellas of this March Madness, are we starting to have a change of heart? So my first question for you, Ryan, is the coveted Cinderella of March Madness officially dead?
Unfortunately, I think it is, and I think a lower D1 team like that Cinderella type team can go maybe to the round of 32, but I feel like that's about it. Like the talent and the NIL is just getting too much, where the bigger teams have bigger and better players, and we're not fighting. There's still the hidden gems on the Cinderella teams, but to be honest, I think that just like you said, and just like you brought up, the Cinderella teams that can be, considered Cinderella teams could be like a Texas at like a, still a big D1 school at like the 11 seed or like a 10 seed that goes far. That can still happen, but I think as far as like the, maybe 11 through 16 seeds that go far, I think that is officially dead.
I am on the other side of that because when this thing started first happening and these narratives first started rising, Matt and I made the argument that as the hidden gems that were going to be found at the lower levels were going to move up to the bigger levels, what that was going to happen is maybe push some guys that were recruited at a higher rank that went to these big schools initially were going to get pushed out and have to go back to the lower levels. I think as the years go on, we're still going to see that. I think this is just one of those years where it didn't happen. But no, I do think it's a fair question because I mean, in a world where one of the largest profiting athletic programs is considered a Cinderella seed, I mean, it's a fair question to ask. Speaking of
Yeah,
which, though,
and uh real quick, I still think that there's going to be like a high point win over Wisconsin, or like if Siena would end up winning, like a win like that, maybe one or two games. But
hmm
as far as like a run like Loyola Chicago had, or like some of the other like FGCU, and some of the other historic Cinderella teams, I feel like that's probably about over with that type of run.
And I think, watch next year because it could all change. We could get another Cinderella story. And what's going to happen maybe is like a couple guys that were initially recruited by the big schools move down to the lower schools because they were pushed out. And then
Yeah.
they're going to team up for one of these mid-major schools. And then they're going to go on a deep Cinderella run. So that's just how it goes from time to time. But because I brought up my Texas Longhorns, I have to admit, I had no faith in Texas heading into the NCAA tournament. Losing two straight to end the regular season, losing in the first round of the SEC tournament, I could have made an argument that they didn't deserve to go dancing at all. But I also said that if this core could stay together for another year, they could be dangerous. But we're seeing that process speed up in overdrive. And the two keys to Texas's magical run to the Sweet 16 is one, defense. They were atrocious during the regular season, and they've turned that around. But also, sharing the rock. They were one of the worst teams in assist to shots made. They were a heavy isolation team. But now they were getting each other open for good shots, and I didn't even recognize this team. This was a fun run. It was a heartbreaking way to lose to Purdue on the last second tip by Trey Kaufman Wren, Silver Creek's own. Shout out to Silver Creek in the Sellersburg, Southern Indiana area. But overall, I had nothing to be complained about, man. I didn't expect Texas to make it to the Sweet 16. I definitely didn't expect them to beat Gonzaga. I did expect them to beat BYU because BYU was not the same team after they lost Richie Saunders. But no, I think Sean Miller's got the program headed in the right place.
I agree. And the Matas guy, I don't know how to say his last name, the 7 foot.
Vocatitis.
Yeah, oh, I'm surprised you know how to pronounce his name.
He plays for my team. I should.
Well,
If he played for
Tom,
another team, probably not. But if he plays for Texas, so I kind of have to.
he was cooking during the March Madness run.
Just
So,
not from the free throw line.
well, I mean, hey, he can't be perfect everywhere. Let me see his free throws.
He missed
I'm
7 in a row against BYU.
Yeah, 3 for 11, not great, but
Not great, no.
7 for 12, 3 for 11, 3 for 5, 3 for 6. So,
I think I could shoot better than 3 for 11 if I'm shooting free throws and Ryan's throwing shit at me.
yeah. I like to say I would shoot better than 3 for 11 from the free throw. That's one thing that's like, maybe an average person, if they're a good shooter, they can shoot good free throws. It's all about pressure, but like at least there's not someone guarding them during free throws.
It's
You
all
know,
about pressure, and to be fair, they are running up and down a college basketball court
yeah,
for
they're
40
gas.
minutes. Their legs are not what ours would be if we're just shooting around at the park.
Yeah, we
Hell,
would
our
love.
legs were gone when we were just shooting around at the park. So there's that.
Yeah, we were we were not in the shape that they are.
No. And if
But
we were, shame on them.
yeah, but yeah, it was definitely a good run, and man, it was a good game against Purdue. It just happened to be. You could argue that it was maybe a foul on TKR on the last play, but I don't know. I think it was either like over the back or a push.
No,
I
I
don't
think
know.
I think the tip was clean. It's a heartbreaking way to lose, but the tip was clean.
Yeah. Well, I know the tip was clean.
I mean, I can't say enough about how Trayvon Mark just had one of the best games I've seen him play in a Texas uniform. He was absolutely cooking. But what I noticed, and this is what I kept tweeting about, I don't know if you saw during the my Twitter account, but Dalen Swain and Trayvon Mark could take whoever they wanted on Purdue off the dribble. Like Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer are not good perimeter defenders. And for whatever reason, Purdue likes to switch Oscar Clough on the pick and rolls. And that is the worst formula for any kind of defense because he gets cooked by any guard with any kind of handles and speed.
Yeah.
And I just kept saying, like, attack them off the dribble, attack them off the dribble. You're going to get the shot you want. And they had a lot of success. Dalen Swain, of course, tied the game up, driving to the rack and getting an and one call, fouling Oscar Clough out, ironically enough. But I felt like there were other possessions where they settled where they didn't need to that maybe could put the game in reach to where a go ahead tip wasn't going to be an option.
Yeah, and at least Trayvon Mark did well from the free throw line. At
Yes.
least as far as
Better than
play.
Vokey. Definitely better than Vokey.
Yeah, but about every game but Gonzaga he was cooking, and I felt like I know we'll get to Gonzaga, but I felt like they were
We
gonna
might to
go
get to
down.
Gonzaga sooner than you think.
I feel like they were going down sooner than later. I just weren't high on that team at all, especially what they were like a 3 seed. Yeah, a 3 seed, but I don't know if you're getting to this. I'm not sure, but we got to give some love to Iowa.
Iowa.
Yeah,
Yeah, they went on a nice little run themselves.
they're
Absolutely.
cooking. Bull Garris and Bennett Sturts are tough.
They are. And it's sad that their season came to an end last night against Illinois, but that was a very magical run. Of course, they are always going to have a special place in my heart for knocking off Florida because I cannot
Hey,
stand
they
Todd
have
Golden.
they have a
Cannot
chance
stand Todd
against
Golden.
they have a chance against Illinois.
When I read the message boards and I hear them talk about who Shire is as a coach and how he's an elitist who doesn't understand his privilege and all these narratives, and I'm like, and then I'll listen to a post game presser from Todd Golden, and my first thought is he is everybody that y'all think John Shire is. When you talk about just having an entitled, almost asshole like attitude at every press conference that doesn't go his way, and I'm just like, and that's who y'all think John Shire is. And then you listen to John Shire, and he got criticism for wanting to protect his players during a court storm. It's like, oh, how dare a coach care about the safety of his players, right? Like, that's ridiculous. But then Todd Golden comes to Cameron Indoor and advocates for getting some of the worst calls imaginable, and then once that has the audacity to go in the post game presser and be like, "I'll tell my team that you have to beat Duke by 10 to beat them at Cameron because of all the calls they get." Dude, you wanted Malik Brown kicked out of the game because he reached in for a rebound and Thomas Hugh pulled his arm into his face. What the hell are we talking about? You talk about, oh, they get all the calls. That you're not going to get that call anywhere. I'm sorry, but you should know that. But yeah, super glad Iowa knocked out Florida. Can't stand Todd Golden. Great coach,
It's
no,
such
but
a
annoying attitude.
what a great year for Ben McCollum in his first year, going from obviously Drake to Iowa.
Absolutely, he did a phenomenal job.
I know, it'd be insane. And hey, they can beat Illinois. Okay, they have a chance. Play today. Do you not know that? I think you
Oh,
Les got his dates mixed up. They played today.
oh, they played
Illinois,
today.
uh, Illinois played Houston on Thursday. Then they play
That
today.
that's right. That's right. You're right. I kept um oh yeah. I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, you're right. They definitely can beat Illinois. That'll be a good game.
Beat the
Either
Europe.
way, a Big Ten team is going to the Final Four.
I know. And there's like, so how many we got left? We got Purdue. Oh, Michigan State lost. That sucks. We got Purdue, Michigan, Illinois, Iowa. I think we have four left. So I think I don't think Purdue's not beating Arizona, but at least one of the teams out of Iowa and Illinois will make it, and then Michigan plays Tennessee. I think Michigan goes.
Yeah, I think Michigan beats Tennessee. I mean,
Yeah,
Arizona, but yeah, I don't think Purdue has a shot in hell against Arizona. Arizona's actually been the most impressive team in the tournament to me, so up to this point.
I mean they handled business way more than I thought against Arizona or against Arkansas. That was
Oh my
crazy.
gosh. I mean, the thing with Arkansas is that they can beat anybody, but they also struggle to keep their emotions in check. And I think that's what we saw against
Yeah,
Arizona is that when things started didn't go their way, they got all been out of shape, all their emotions got the best of them, and then they just lost control.
yeah,
And
there was a couple technicals, like just maybe a flagrant foul in there, and but you know, I think we've all felt this feeling. The game, I didn't look down at the score, but I thought the game was about over, and there was still 8 minutes left. Like they
yeah,
were they were up by that much, and it just you could just tell from Arkansas side that the game was over, and they just weren't coming back, and Arizona was just a buzzsaw during that game.
100%. And yeah, when shots weren't falling, even take the technicals out of it, when shots starting to not fall, they were starting to hang their heads. They were starting to get discouraged, and it's just like they lost control of the game at all
Yeah,
facets. But
yeah,
yeah,
and I think that um Acuff was just like eventually was just like trying to do it all, and like he wasn't getting much help on the outside.
absolutely. But as for one of the teams that my Texas Longhorns did knock off of that I was going to get to here in a second, Gonzaga, this leaves a big question mark about head coach Mark Few. 27 years at Gonzaga, 83 win percentage, 26 consecutive NCAA tournament appearances, 23-time conference champs, two Final Fours, two national championship appearances. But with zero championships, is it officially time to leave Spokane and head to a bigger school for a shot at that coveted championship? I know North Carolina has a job opening right now. Ryan, what do you think?
I know, but that just seems like too good to be true for North Carolina. I feel like he's just one of those coaches that'll just stay at, you know, stay loyal to Gonzaga and stay at the schools that he's at. And and it probably is going to be the same pattern where they got a great regular season because they play in the is it the WCC?
The WAC, the WCC, yeah, I mean, who knows at this
Yeah.
point?
I just want making I was making sure that I was saying the right initials. But and they roll through the WCC, maybe take a loss to like Santa Clara or St. Mary's every once in a while, but and then they go to the tournament and they can only make it so far because they're not talented enough to go against like the bigger teams. So I don't know. I just feel like he's just gonna stay there and retire as a at Gonzaga. So I just feel like he stays loyal to the team and stays there. But I mean, North Carolina is the top three job in college basketball. So, if they're looking for anyone. Even if whatever coach is having a great year, they could take anyone besides a couple of coaches, obviously.
I'm kind of on the same page with you. Is like, why now? I mean, he's 63. He's closer
Yeah.
to the end than the beginning of his coaching career. 27 years at one school. That's a lot of memories to pass up, and with no guarantees at another school. But I do want to say that while I'm seeing the graphic go around with Patino having the run he had at St. John's this year, and how he's able to do so much with quote unquote so little talent, even though players like Ian Jackson and Dylan Mitchell were 5-star recruits, but we're not going to get to that. I want to point out that Mark Few over the years has been one of my favorite recruiters, not named John Shire. Of course, I was growing up in the quote unquote, sorry, 3-star era for much of the early 2000s and early 2010s. Gonzaga had a bunch of 2 and 3-star recruits that were developed into 3 to 4 years and All Americans. And then, of course, they developed that international pipeline when Tommy Lloyd, now at Arizona, was on the coaching staff as well. And they found gems like Rui Hachimura, Kelly Olynyk, and then Karnewski. We all remember that. Oh my gosh, we have a Matt McClellan sighting. Here he
So
comes.
I was about to let you know.
Welcome to the show, mid-major Matt.
He
My
didn't
mom
want.
was muted. I could not believe that. I'm just, I am just glad that this worked. So what are we talking about?
So I'm talking about Mark Few right now because you joined the show right as we were talking about how one of the teams that my Texas Longhorns knocked out of the NCAA tournament, Mark Few, we asked the question, is it time for him to officially leave Gonzaga and head to a bigger school for a chance to win a championship? Now, Ryan and I both said no because 27 years, that's a lot of memories at one school. You're 63 years old, you're probably closer to the end than you are the beginning. And then I was pointing out how Mark Few over the years was is one of my favorite recruiters, not named John Shire, because through the early 2000s and or early 2010s, he built teams with a bunch of 2 and 3-star talent that he developed into All Americans. And then, of course, when Tommy Lloyd was on coaching staff, they found some hidden international gems like Rui Hachimura, Kelly Olynyk, and then Karnewski. I know you remember Karnewski during that championship run. And then, of course, he becomes a transfer portal specialist, where they get guys like Kyle Wiltshire, Brandon Clark, and all them to come in. And I was just pointing out like how he's been one of my favorite recruiters, like not named John Shire, just because his teams are so
Right.
intriguing that he builds. So that's what we were talking about before you come on.
Well, I mean, you're both right. The only reason, if I was Mark Few, I'd even entertain leaving is if North Carolina asked you, and they're probably not going to ask because, like, it's incredible. Gonzaga does have the most tournament wins over like the past 10 years. It's just they can't get that one that actually matters, I suppose. But it's like you guys said, there's no reason to leave. You're joining a conference which, on paper, seems to be better than the WCC. You've obviously had no problems recruiting up to this point. Like I said, unless North Carolina just backs the truck up, and I don't think they will because their fans would demand a championship caliber coach, not one who nearly gets it done. I don't know why you would let 27 years of history and a Hall of Fame career go by the wayside. But Randy Bennett is the coach at Arizona State now, so I know nothing. But if I was Mark Few, I would stay at Gonzaga because chances of success are few and far between.
As for who could potentially be the next North Carolina head coach, I don't know if you all trust Kalashi, but they've dropped the percentage odds of who they think is going to
Yeah.
be the next North Carolina coach. Leading the way was Billy Donovan at 28%. I don't know how I feel about that. TJ Otzelberger was at 18%. If I'm not mistaken, he's already turned the job down. Nate Oates at 14%, Tommy Lloyd at 11%, Mark Byington at 7%, Dusty May at 5%, Grant McCaslin at 5%, and Todd Golden also at 5%. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Dusty May and Todd Golden, I don't know why the hell they would leave. They've built Michigan and Florida into contenders, and I'm pretty sure any money that North Carolina is going to throw at them, Michigan and Florida can match that. So I don't know why they would leave. Billy Donovan, that's becoming like one of those names
It's
that
the
we
new
throw out.
Brad Stevens.
Yes, it's the new Brad Stevens. It's like everybody thinks he's going to come back to college, and like he never does. So it's like whatever. TJ Otzelberger, of course, I think has already turned down the job. But the ones I think are most likely. Nate Oates potentially because he's had Alabama good, but not contending or contender good. So I think that's a possibility. Or Mark Byington, I think that could be a potential decent choice. But I think they've made it clear that they've also released a statement that they don't want to hire within the North Carolina family. So I think that rules out Sean May, which was a popular rumor for a while that he could potentially become the next head coach, or even a Wes Miller. But of course, Wes Miller getting fired from Cincinnati, I think that they don't want to. If he's going to get fired at Cincinnati, they definitely don't want him at North Carolina.
Well,
I
they
wouldn't. I
can't
wouldn't
hire him
think.
because he's the coach at Charlotte now. That was
That's
the
right.
plot.
That's right. I forgot. Yeah, that just happened.
Yeah, and I feel like you can bet anything and everything on Kalshi. I mean, I see that all the time. We could bet what Les is going to do after this show on Kalshi, I swear. I mean,
100%
anything.
odds that I'm going to be editing this content.
Yeah, there's always that small percentage that you're not. Something comes up. Maybe, maybe Bean is just like crying for food and you got to go feed
I
him.
fed him before we got on the show. We're good in that department.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I was just thinking, and you just said it, that maybe, Indiana just did this. Maybe they don't go someone from like the alumni that like a lot of teams do. Maybe they go away from that who someone has for someone that has nothing to do with the program. Maybe North Carolina goes away from their alumni and goes and gets, maybe a TJ Otzelberger or any good head coach that can go back to North Carolina standards that have nothing to do with the program. I think that would be a better option than to go with like an alumni, like they have been.
Well, on the other side of that rivalry, I think that's one thing that John Shire does that I actually prefer over what Coach K did because Coach K would hire coaching staff that had connections to the Duke Brotherhood. But Shire would bring in assistant coaches that didn't have that connection with Duke initially. And how he views that is that he's just expanding the brotherhood. He's not only keeping it within the brotherhood, he's expanding the brotherhood. So I think if North Carolina, we're seeing the success that Duke's had with that model under the Shire era. I mean, North Carolina might want to take a page out of the Duke handbook. I know North Carolina fans aren't going to like that metaphor, but
Oh my gosh. No,
Duke's
they're
still
not.
playing and North Carolina's not.
Is
Nancy,
is John Shire the only coach in college basketball?
He's the only coach that matters.
oh my God.
Of
No,
course,
I'm glad
all
I joined.
jokes.
I couldn't have taken 40 minutes of this. But yeah, to me, if I'm North Carolina, I'm taking a nice hard look at Byington. I mean, whether you want to admit it or not, there's something about the James Madison mystique where he started out. Ever
Hmm.
since they beat Wisconsin a couple years ago, he's turned Vanderbilt into, and I mean, he has done incredibly well in the portal. But let's be honest, he's not getting like the top guys in the portal. He's just preaching a steady, defensive-minded team with a lot of good players that complement each other well. And if you're Carolina, you kind of need like a gruffer, more oriented guy because I think that's what you want to get back to. You just want to play that tough, old school Carolina basketball, and I think Byington gives you the best shot at that. He's got and I know because he's from that school, we're all going to make this comparison. He's got a little Signetti in him, but he's a basketball guy. And if it hadn't been for like one of the most unfortunate counterclockwise Coriolis effect spins in the history of the college basketball tournament, Vanderbilt could be playing in the Elite Eight today if it was possible. But they just got beat by Nebraska. And if it hadn't been for that one thing, that one shot not drop, that one shot dropping or spinning out, they probably would be because they've beaten Florida. They were playing it close with Arkansas as long as they could before Darius Akoff went God mode. I would take a nice hard look at Byington, really, Jeff Byington. I mean, if you're hiring outside and you want to have a realistic hire, because you're not getting Dusty May, you're not getting Todd Golden. I think, like you said, Altenberger already said no. The only other guy I could think of, and he's way too old, is like Rick Barnes, but he's just too old
Yeah.
at this point. But yeah, I'm taking a nice hard look at Byington if I am the University of North Carolina Tar Heels.
But as North Carolina figures out who their next coach is going to be, several other schools have already gotten their man because of the performances by some of the smaller schools in the NCAA tournament. We saw Jared Calhoun leave Utah State for Cincinnati. Jerry McNamara, GMAC, after that impressive first round performance against Duke, leave Siena for his alma mater, Syracuse. And we even saw Will Wade shock the world, well, shock my world, because I thought when Ryan put it in the group chat, I thought he was trolling until I saw a tweet from Jeff Goodman. But Will Wade leaves North Carolina State to go back to LSU. So, of those three, Ryan, you've got about another 5 minutes on the show. So I'll start with you. Which one of those three coaching hires intrigues you the most?
Well, I mean, um, the Siena coach leaving, maybe he'll find, some bench players that can perform well for him, so he play five starters the whole game. But probably will wait. I mean, it's not like he left LSU. He got fired from LSU. That's like Louisville going and hiring back Chris Mack,
Yeah.
okay, or someone like that. Not Kenny Payne. Okay, he wasn't that bad, but. But it's just like, and it's not a good look for Will Wade at all. He didn't handle things well, and you went from NC State to LSU, and by the way, LSU is having to pay like over 200 million between like two sports and like head coaches and buyouts and stuff like that. But that's just outrageous. But yeah, definitely the Will Wade one, just leaving out of nowhere, and I feel like he left probably on the wrong note. Something Lane Kiffin would do, but yeah, that's just very intriguing.
Matt, what do you got?
Well, since Ryan already talked about the insane athletic department at LSU, I am gonna talk more about the Siena and what I think McNamara can do because this time last year we were all talking about Iowa's new coach Ben McCullough and how he was bringing along his superstar player Bennett Sturts with him to Iowa and how they were probably going to be okay off the bat and maybe make the tournament and now they're in the Elite Eight. They are in the Elite Eight. Let's be honest, they've earned their way there. So when I take a look at Jerry McNamara, I know they did not beat Duke, but Drake didn't go that far last year either. But I look at a guy like Gavin Doty. If he follows him to Syracuse, which I think will happen, I think maybe we could end up with a similar scenario. I just think there are certain players that have that strange tenacity to them that they just match their coach so well, like Ben McCollum and Bennett Sturts. That I think Doty and McNamara can get it done because if there's anything we've learned from this tournament, it's that outside of Duke, the ACC is very winnable. Very winnable. They have teams that are pretty good that beat up on each other, but when it comes to tournament time, they kind of get exposed a little bit. But moving into an ACC like that, McNamara, he's got the ties. We have discussed, ironically, already in the show the dangers, and Syracuse pretty much did this to start out with bringing in some guy from the Brotherhood to coach your team. But this seems a little different. I don't know. There's something wrong. There's something different about this. And I think that Gavin Doty, if he goes to Syracuse with McNamara, I think that could be next year's Bennett Sturts, Ben McCollum team up. Maybe not make the Elite Eight, but at least bring Syracuse back to being Syracuse basketball.
100%. And I mean, it's worth noting too that John Shire, the coach that I just joked around is the only coach in college basketball, even said that GMAC outcoached him in that first round game. So that's got to be promising if you're an Orange fan.
I like how
Well,
you say that. If you're an Orange fan, like, what if you hate oranges? What if you're a tangerine guy?
I mean, I'm more of a grapefruit guy myself.
No,
Or I
let's.
might, when I'm feeling really bougie, I might go with the dragon fruit.
Oh, look at you! Someone's been in the produce section.
Nah, I know my way around the produce section, my boy.
Before he knows it, he's going to be telling us the secrets of the papaya.
Exactly. But anyways, is there anything else we want to add? Or are we going to talk about some upcoming games? Well, Ryan's not. He's about to leave.
Right?
well, I can leave it like 901, 902.
It's
There you go.
already well, it's 8:59 right now. Okay.
My timer didn't go out at 9 o'clock. It's okay.
All
But
right. So
yeah.
with the Elite Eight is officially set, what matchups intrigue you the most?
Ryan, since you have limited time, I'm letting you go first with this one.
I'm trying to, okay, I'm gonna name off the matchups just so I know for sure. So Michigan, Tennessee, all right. UConn, and Duke, all right.
Hmm.
and then Iowa and Illinois, and then Arizona, Purdue. That Arizona Purdue game is just it's going to be fun to watch. That's today, and that's going to be a fun game to watch with Purdue's. Both teams have a couple players that would give you experience, some young players, and it's going to be a battle in the post. And it's all about how Braden Smith, and I don't think Purdue's going to win, but it's all about how if Braden Smith and Fletcher Loyer can shoot well together. Sometimes it's either Braden going off and Fletcher not, or Fletcher going off and Braden is, or sorry, or Braden's not. So it's all about for Purdue if they're consistent enough together. And but I still think that Arizona gets the dub today.
What crazy
I just don't like Purdue's perimeter defense. I think they're going to get destroyed.
No, I don't either. But
and
they
here's the crazy thing is
different.
sorry. And here's the crazy thing about that. What Arizona scored over 100 points in their last game and they hit what, five threes? That was it, just five. So they can find ways to score and Purdue's big advantage against Miami and oh gosh, who did they play? Texas was the fact they had a little bit of a size advantage. And when you're going up against Arizona,
That's gone.
that's not the same as it was. Combine that with a little bit of a weak perimeter defense, and I think Arizona's going to get that one. I do think it'll be a really fun, entertaining game, but Arizona just has so many ways to score in buckets. They've got the size, and like Les said, Purdue's perimeter play has been sketchy at times. So
Now, I think
I,
that's a generous way of putting it.
I don't want to. You know how I am. I can't. The minute I say it's terrible, they're going to like lock down, not allow a shot outside the arc, and I'm going to look like a total idiot. This will get clipped. But I still think it'll be an intriguing game. I think it'll be a fun one to watch. But yeah, I'm going with the Wildcats.
And I think because you mentioned size too, I felt like Vochi gave Purdue enough problems in the post. And imagine what Koa Pete. Oh gosh, I cannot pronounce their other big's name, but he's really good.
It's okay. I can't either.
Karloftis or something like that.
Well, the long last name that starts with a K, or they have Krivas, who's like
Krivas,
just
that's Krivas. That's yeah.
Rebound.
Kriva, yeah. Koa Pete, Krivas, and they got another bench, and they got another big on the bench who's really good.
Toby
Yeah.
Awaka is really good.
Yes,
See, I know my players.
there you do.
But so I'm probably gonna head out. But it was obviously fun talking. Can't wait for the games, and let's go Huskies.
You knew it
No,
was coming, Les.
Yeah, I knew it was coming.
let's
You
go,
know,
Danny.
but you know
I
what's
have
fun?
never hated on Danny Hurley. He is my
That's a
favorite coach.
lie.
No, that's never happened at
That's a
all.
lie. But yeah, no, I feel like some of the takes that I've made on this show are coming back to bite me in the ass because I said in the preseason that St. John's had 2009 North Carolina potential. And of course, they match up against my Blue Devils. And that game took some years off of my life, but my Blue
It's
Devils
fun
were
as
able to
hell.
survive and advance. Now we have another opportunity for a take I've made on the show to bite me in the ass as far as against my Duke Blue Devils because I said UConn was not going to win the national championship, but now in their tournament quest, they have to go through my Blue Devils. And one of the big reasons I said that they weren't going to win the national championship is also looking like it's going to bite me in the ass because I said they were missing that monster in the middle, but I don't
Terrence
know
Reed.
if yet. I don't know. It feels like he's just getting bigger as the season goes on. But Terrace Reed is now like going on like a Brian Zubek-esque run as far as rebounding the ball and just being a force down low. And yeah, it feels like he's just getting bigger as the season goes on because it felt like he was more slender when the season began and he was rim running, rim protecting, doing all that stuff. But now he's freaking bulky as hell out there, grabbing boards left and right. So yeah, it's like this could bite me in the ass totally. Danny Hurley might have saw that clip and been like, "Oh yeah, watch this. I'm going to develop Terrace Reed in the last couple weeks of the season and become a monster. Going to be like the Jalen Duren of the college basketball this year."
Yeah, he's been an absolute monster in past couple of games, just dominated,
Why are you
especially.
still here?
I'm about to leave. I was just gonna say 27 rebounds or whatever it was. All right, see
Insane.
y'all.
Yeah.
Bye, Ryan. Bless, you can't take solace in the fact, though. I did see this graphic where it was I think every time in recent memory Duke has played St. John's in the tournament,
Yep.
they've ended up winning the whole thing. So you've at least got that on your side.
We have that on our side, and yeah. But again, it's comforting, but at the same time, it's not because every year is different.
And
It could
trends that
all
exist to be
it could
broken.
always be like this is the year that breaks that streak. So, but no, I mean it's going to be a tough matchup, of course, with UConn versus. I may not like him, but Danny Hurley is a great coach.
He is.
They have good guard play. Braylon Mullins is shooting well. Solo Ball is a very good guard. Silas DeMary, again, very good guard. Alex Caravan, of course, he's been there. He's done that. He has a knack for making the big play when it matters. But of course, like the thing that could bite me in the ass is saying that they're missing that monster in the middle, and now Terrace Reed becomes Jalen Duren in the tournament. So, like, yep,
Now the funniest thing would be like he has a terrible game, but Eric Reeby goes off and scores like quadruple double.
that would be like the St. John's game because all the guys that worried me in St. John's, like, don't get me wrong, like Bryce Hopkins played well in my opinion, but Ruben Prey turns
Yeah.
into I. What the hell was that, dude?
And
This is
then
a
he
guy who
takes him
scores.
out of the game when they need a three and lets Dylan Darling airball. It's like Rick Pitino, you are part of the rigging. You rigged that game for Duke, didn't you, Rick Pitino?
That me and my buddy were saying the same thing because Ruben Prey was actually absolutely cooking us, and then he left him on the bench for way too long, and it's like, oh my gosh! But
Okay.
a guy who scores 4 points a game just goes perfect from the field. I'm like,
Right. I couldn't believe that.
only against Duke, bro.
Only against Duke because we need the narrative. We need that narrative, man.
I'm gonna go
So
ahead and get
like,
this out of the way so we can get
go ahead,
use
go
the
ahead.
last 2 minutes to talk about whatever we want. But as always, like and subscribe to the Less is More Sports YouTube and Spotify channel to get the latest updates we have on content coming out. Be sure to follow the social media pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Threads. That's at Less is More Sports. Be sure to follow the side quests on TikTok. That's at BeansDad018. But again, more college basketball talk.
I think Illinois is like very sneakily like I think they have a really good chance. Not just against Iowa, but I think they could actually win the championship. I know that means they got to go through Duke, but their size has just you want to talk about size? Their size has just been like really evident in the tournament. I remember seeing that when they played IU and just whomped ass, but they've been playing like incredibly well with like just ball movement with their like every position's huge. I think Illinois. I think they're going to end the Iowa story tonight, but I don't know. Iowa just might be that team of destiny. Is Bennett Sturts the new Kemba Walker? People are
Time will
asking.
tell. You know,
People are asking.
I listen to a lot of Field of 68. So Illinois' run isn't as surprising to me because if you listen to Field of 68, they might as all well be closet Illinois fans.
I
I
think
mean,
they are,
they call Brad Underwood Daddy Brad on the show.
which
Is
don't.
weird, but don't. Yeah, we're not gonna do that.
We're not doing it. If Ryan does that next week, we're sending him to like the Shadow Realm, Jimbo.
I love the Yu-Gi-Oh reference.
We're sending him to the Shadow Realm if he does that one. But yeah, Illinois though. It was kind of one of those teams I thought they would be boom or bust, and the boom is coming at just the perfect time, and that scares me for like. Well, I think Duke will beat UConn. I think that St. John's game was like a really big physical wake up. I think they'll come out ready for that one. But and UConn did play, and I mean those four teams left in that region with St. John's, Michigan State, Duke, and
That was
UConn.
unfair. Those should have
Four
been
fucking
those Sweet
physical
16 games should have been Final Four games.
Yeah, and as physical as those teams are, I think Duke's properly prepared. I think they beat UConn. I think Illinois wins. Illinois and Duke in the Final Four. That's going to be a hell of a game. Michigan, I think, wins. Michigan, Arizona, even better.
Perfect way to end.